Namaste everyone, and welcome back to our Java programming channel. Today, we are diving deep into an advanced yet incredibly powerful feature of Spring Boot, profiles and configuration. Imagine you have an application that needs different settings for development, testing, and production environments. How do you manage that efficiently without constantly changing your code? That is exactly what Spring Boot profiles help us achieve. In this tutorial, we will explore what profiles are, how to define environment-specific configurations, how to activate these profiles, and finally, some best practices to avoid common mistakes. This is a crucial concept for building robust and adaptable Spring Boot applications, so let us get started. Alright, let us begin with the core concept. What exactly are Spring profiles? Think of a profile as a named logical group of bean definitions and configuration properties. It allows you to register different beans or use different property values based on the active environment. For example, you might want to use an in-memory database like H2 for your development environment, but a robust PostgreSQL database for production. Instead of commenting out code or manually changing properties, you can simply tag your components or configuration files with a specific profile name. The @profile annotation is your primary tool here. You can apply it to a configuration class, a component, or even a bean definition method to specify when that particular element should be active. It is like having different versions of your application logic or settings ready to be swapped in with just a flip of a switch, making your application highly adaptable without code changes. Now that we understand profiles, how do we manage our configuration properties for these different environments? Spring Boot provides a fantastic mechanism for externalized configuration, primarily through application.properties or application.yml files. The magic happens with profile-specific configuration files. You can create files like applicationdev.properties, applicationtest.properties, or applicationprod.properties. Spring Boot will automatically load the base application.properties file first and then overlay it with properties from the profile-specific file that matches the active profile. This means you only define what changes per environment in the profile-specific file, keeping your configurations clean and organized. For example, your development database URL goes into applicationdev.properties and your production URL goes into applicationprod.properties. We use the @value annotation in our Java code to inject these properties seamlessly. So, we have defined our profiles and our configuration files. How do we tell Spring Boot which profile to activate when our application starts? There are several straightforward ways. One of the most common methods is by using a command line argument when you run your Spring Boot application. You can pass dspring.profiles.active is equal to dev to activate the dev profile. Another powerful approach is to set the Spring_profiles_active environment variable. This is particularly useful in containerized environments like Docker or Kubernetes, where you can easily configure environment variables for different deployments. You can also specify a default profile in your application.properties file using spring.profiles.default is equal to some profile. This flexibility ensures that your application behaves exactly as expected in any given environment without requiring code modifications or recompilation. It is incredibly powerful for deployment automation. While Spring Boot profiles are powerful, there are a few common mistakes developers often make. One mistake is not defining a default profile. If no profile is explicitly activated, Spring Boot runs without any specific profile, which might lead to unexpected behavior if your application relies on profile-specific configurations. Always consider a default profile or ensure one is always activated. Another pitfall is hard-coding sensitive information directly into configuration files. Instead, use externalized secrets management tools or environment variables for sensitive data like API keys or database passwords. Also, avoid excessive duplication across profile-specific files. Leverage the hierarchical loading of application.properties to define common properties once. For best practices, consider using application.yml for its structured and readable format, especially for complex configurations. Always document your profiles and their expected configurations for team members. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Spring Boot profiles and configuration. We have covered what profiles are, how they help us manage environment-specific settings, how to define configuration using application-profile.properties or application-profile.yml files, and various ways to activate profiles, including command-line arguments and environment variables. We also discussed common mistakes to avoid and best practices to ensure your applications are robust and maintainable across different environments. Remember, practice is key. Try setting up a simple project with dev and prod profiles to see it in action. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more advanced Java and Spring Boot tutorials. Keep coding, keep learning, and I will see you in the next video. Jai Hind.